what the ITKs are saying about who our next transfer is going to be. And if you believe the ITKs, not just the ITKs are saying it, but Paul O'Keefe and Fabrizio Romano have also alluded to Spurs being in talks to this player. Let's get into what the ITKs are saying. Like I said before, it's nothing new because Paul O'Keefe and Fabrizio Romano have both alluded to this player over the past couple of days, saying that we're in talks with Désiré Doué, a player that me and Sim are both very excited about. 18, I think he's 19 years old now, out in the French league, done bits for Rennes last year. Really exciting talent, can play left wing, can play in the 10 position as well. And so let's go and look at what the ITKs are saying on ITK Hub. What lies beneath is a tier 2, and he says, Doué waiting for the green light from camp. Player excited about the proposal from Tottenham. Poseidon says Poseidon says Doué excited by Spurs proposal. Spurs in talks with Rennes, so far so good, fingers crossed. He also said on Eze, Palace confident that they could keep him as of right now. His clause is the only thing that they can't control, and upwards of 50 million is to be paid up front and more. And Neto, players camp, has been spoken to. Had he not got injured towards the tail end of last season, I'd be willing to bet money on that he'd be a Spurs player by now. But with the injury issues, Spurs have become a bit uncertain. I could see us trying to get him irrespective of what happens with Doué or Eze. I think most will get two forwards, not in the same position. So, for example, I can't see Eze and Doué, since they're similar players. Although of course I would welcome it. And then Mysterio says, Ipswich considering Spence, and we are in fairly advanced talks with Doué.
Well, when the ITKs line up and when they're all saying very similar things, I don't know. I wouldn't say it always comes true, because you can't always take what the ITK say that reliably. They're not like proper journalist reporters. But usually, what I would say is, when all the ITKs are all saying very similar things, there's usually no smoke without fire. And that's quite interesting that they're all mentioning Doué, and they're all saying that we're in talks with Rennes, and one of them even saying talks advanced. I'm not going to start getting excited yet, but what I will say is Doué would be a brilliant signing for Tottenham, and he's exactly the kind of winger Spurs are looking for. Get his FB ref up, and you can see exactly what I mean by what kind of winger he is. And he's a winger who's been fantastic in the Liga last season for Rennes, playing on the left-hand side. It's interesting, a couple of years ago he was playing a bit more of a central role. Last season he's definitely been more on the wing, and he's exactly the kind of exciting winger that Spurs want, taking players on. And I know he's only 18, so caveats with, a player who's still developing, and he's not obviously at his peak, and obviously, as he has only done it in the French league, and has he done it? He hasn't had, I guess, he got 4 goals and 4 assists last season, which is pretty good for an 18-year-old, but obviously he hasn't absolutely smashed it yet, with massive numbers. But I think when you look at him play, when you look at his potential and look at his underlying data, I mean, it's there for all to see, I feel.
Yeah, if you look at this chart from FB Ref, he's got progressive passes in the 83rd percentile, progressive carries in the 99th percentile, successful take-ons in the 99th percentile, touches in the attacking penalty area in the 97th percentile, progressive passes received in the 99th percentile, and then even in the defensive metrics, he's in the 90th percentile for blocks, 50th percentile for interceptions. But only 44 percentile for tackles. But I still think it's very, very strong when you look at that. Shot creating actions, 97th percentile, assists 83, shots total 97, non-penalty goals 90th percentile. I mean, this guy so strong on the metrics as well. When you're looking at, Johan Langer and the club really looking at the data-led approach, I mean, he would be at the top of the list.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, and I think as well when a lot of people who don't like the data-led approach and they go for the eye test, I think all you have to do is see a few highlights of him, or when you watch him play for Rennes, and you can see the quality that he does have and how exciting he is. He's lightning quick. He's got a box of tricks as well. He's a very tricky customer. He takes people on. He's brave. I
think box of tricks is taking it lightly. Go and watch his reel on YouTube. Some of the back flicks and the way he takes people on is just insane.
Yeah. So I think this would be a really exciting signing. I'm looking at last season. It says he started in the league, started 17 games, and it says here 13 left winger, 4 in the central attacking midfield, 4 in centre mid as well. So definitely a player who can play centrally as well.
Yeah,
Which is
and those this metric here is actually him versus midfielders. This FB ref chart right now. So if we want to look at versus attackers, as someone just clearly pointed out in the comments, passes attempted 68th percentile, progressive passes 94th percentile, progressive carries 73rd percentile, take-ons 94th percentile, progressive passes received 76. And look at these defensive metrics as a winger, tackles 85th percentile, interceptions 94th percentile, blocks 96th percentile.
Yeah, and when I look at him as a wing, like a winger, the metrics there, I'm looking at key passes, pass into the final third. Let me see key passes could be a bit better, 54th percentile, but successful take-ons, he's clearly very good at dribbling. Progressive carries, very good. Progressive passes, really good. Look, he's not the finished article, I think we can definitely see here, but the potential is there for all to see, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like,
near the top.
Data-led approach as well puts Timo Werner very high up the list as well. And I think that is why we ended up pushing the button on him, because he does perform very well on the metrics, like really well.
Yeah, well, there's some very specific metrics he performs very well at, and I thought he had some really good data when he was at Tottenham. But yeah, that's why I feel like we're not going to get a Neto and a Doué. Now we've got Werner, I feel, probably through the door, as much as I think that's probably what's required for this squad. A Neto and a Doué, because if one of them is injured, you've got another dribbly winger there as well. But now we've signed Werner, it's unlikely we get 2. I do think it's probably only going to get 1, I would say.
I'm not sure. I kind of agree with how'd you say it? Poseidon. I kind of agree with him. I don't see us getting a Doué and a Eze, but I can see us getting a Doué and a Neto. I really can.
I hope so.
But I think Doué and Eze are too similar. They both cover the same positions where you're looking at the number 10 and the wing spot. But Neto is currently just solely on the wings. So I'd love to see both of them come in. I really would.
I think it would be really beneficial to us to have those 2 options, plus the options we have already. Because I feel like Johnson and Werner are quite similar in terms of how they do things on the wing. They can be effective, but they're more get to the byline and get the cutbacks. They're not really take people on, but they're effective at running in behind. And then you have Neto and you'll have Doué, who like the ball to feet and like to take people on and actually like to commit players and create chances that way. So it gives you different options. Then obviously you've got Decky, who can play on the wing, who's a bit more creative, who likes the ball to feet but doesn't like to take people on, likes to pass the ball a bit on that side as well. So I feel like the options there would be there with those 2 players.
Is there a case to say that we're signing too many youngsters when you're looking at the 18 and 19-year-old market? We've got in Gray, we've got in Bergvall, Vuskovic is coming in next season. The defensive line is obviously very young as well. And if we bring in another Doué, literally, we've got so many teenagers in our first team squad.
Spurs under 18s.
Literally.
I mean, I don't see a problem with it. And I mean, unless you're fearing that we're doing like a Chelsea and just signing our whole team is going to be young and inexperienced and we're just going to have no experience at all. And sometimes that takes a lot of time for those players to bed in and gel. When we saw last season with Chelsea, wasn't until the last few games of the season they started to click really. Is there a fear of us doing that? I would say no, because we've got a good nucleus of experienced players. Most players would have been here from last season anyway and would have had that season together. So as long as we're signing a mix, I don't mind if it's a lot of them are teenagers, because that's only going to benefit our future anyway.
Let's go and compare him to maybe our wingers now. So if you go Doué, this is on Data MB. Who shall we compare him to?
Do Johnson.
So that's last season. You can see they are, have their different strengths, do they?
That's what I was saying. They're good at different things.
So, I mean, Doué is much stronger at carrying the ball. His off-the-ball actions, his dribbling, non-penalty goals as well. And then you've got Brennan, who's better at his key passes and better at his assists as well.
It's quite a look. Brennan's key passes are really strong. Actually.
Yeah.
It's quite impressive.
And if you take away Brennan and maybe put in a Timo there.
I reckon it'll be fairly similar. That's my prediction.
Well, Werner's not there. You have to. Werner's down as a striker.
You can do
do Son
Becky or Son. Son also a striker.
This is Song from the previous season only. Kulusevski.
Yeah, you could do Son from the previous season. What from 22?
That's Kulusevski. It's not that too dissimilar. The only
Key
thing
passes.
that Kulusevski is really much better at is the key passes.
Yeah, they're all it's very similar to Decky. What's that Doué is much better than him? Is that assists? Yeah, so he gets a bit more assists.
And dribbles.
Okay, fair enough.
This is Heung-min Son from the previous season, so probably his worst season, you'd say, in a Spurs shirt.
See what it would bring. But you could do him to like other good wingers, like let's say like a Martinelli or something.
Martinelli had a poor season. Let's do Saka. That's him compared to Saka.
So quite similar on what Doué is good at. They're quite similar, but obviously Saka's much better than these other facets.
Who else do you want to see?
Trossard might be a good one to look at.
That's him compared to Trossard. So what Trossard has on him is the non-penalty goals and the XG and XA.
Yeah, it gets him more goal-scoring positions.
But everything else, Doué actually is trumping him.
I think that makes sense because I feel like Trossard, he's one of these players who kind of makes the difference in the final third, but actually when build up an overall play, he's not that involved.
That's why he's actually done so well this season, because he comes up with the moments, doesn't he? But he doesn't impact the game maybe as much as you would like. 100%.
What about like
I agree
Doku?
with that.
Doku's a good one to compare him to.
Wow, that's Doku.
See, Doku.
I don't know why they did it both in blue, but Doku actually, I can't tell which one's which because they're both in blue.
Doku's the bigger one.
Doku's the one that has basically at the end of every spectrum. Doku looks brilliant. If you look at this, I don't even think Doku's had such a strong season.
Someone said Gordon. Look at Gordon.
Gordon? That's Gordon.
Okay, not too dissimilar.
You got to remember, guys.
He's
I know
18,
it's in the French league, but when these stats were made, he was 18. He's actually 19 now, I believe. But I think this would be a really smart signing for Spurs. I really believe that.
Yeah, we're comparing him to players who are a lot older than him and also got Premier League experience and have had great seasons. We're comparing him to the players who had the best seasons in the league, pretty much. And
Someone
he's
says
comparing not too badly.
Do Pedro Neto. That should be an interesting
Neto,
one.
okay, yeah, I like that.
That's Pedro Neto.
So it's not too dissimilar.
It's just the things that you know that you can improve with better coaching, the key passes and getting in the good areas and knowing when to pass it and improving the end product. That can be coached.
Exactly, and he's still so young, so those are things that are going to improve. Obviously, Neto, you can see there when he's on the pitch, he's just brilliant, isn't he? Key passes are there, the dribbles, the carries, assists. I think he was, even though he missed a lot of the second half of the season, he was still one of the top assisters in the league, wasn't he?
Yeah, 100%. And what's really impressive about Doué is his work rate. Because you can be all flash and everything, and sometimes you can get a bit ahead of yourself when you're that age, but his work rate is second to none. And you can see that by the metrics as well. The amount, his pressing, really good. When he gets on the ball, he's at it. So, I mean, I think we should get this over the line. I'd be really excited.
Do Team Titania.
Team Titania.
I don't think he's still playing. Nico Williams.
Nico Williams.
This is the Compare Doué hour.
That's
Wow.
Nico Williams.
So good. That's just incredible. That's why we need Nico. That's just the difference, isn't it? That's what you're paying that extra, however much.
But anyway, that is the reason why we should be signing Désiré Doué, and that is the reason why we're so excited about him. And it's music to our ears that Spurs ITKs, along with Paul O'Keefe and Fabrizio Romano, are all linking him to us right now. And again, as we said with Archie Gray about him being a major coup for the club, how we can get him over many other clubs, I think many other clubs are interested in him as well.
Definitely. And I feel like if we can't get Nico, which seems obviously going to be very unlikely,
It would probably be a similar price, though. That's the thing.
If we well, I guess with his release clause, if we can't, I reckon Doué you can probably get for around 30. I'm going to assume. If you can't, if we're too worried about Neto's injuries, then I do think this is a really good option, and because he's really young, he's got really high potential. I reckon he can make an impact right now on the first team. As much as I don't know if he's going to be, on one of the leading wingers in the league, but I do think he can come in and make an impact, and then in a few years' time he might be at that level. Albeit, you did see Saka break into the Arsenal team at a similar age, and you saw how good he can be.
Yeah.
So I think this could be a really smart piece of business for Tottenham if we get him in.
Agreed. So make it happen, Tottenham. Come on, let's have our second signing of the season. And look, Ali Gold did say last week that Spurs are still pushing to bring in 2 players before the start of pre-season. Pre-season starts on Saturday.
But I guess the only question mark is, I mean, to your point, are we signing too many young players? What I would say is, if we do start the season signing as Archie Gray and a Doué, obviously those are 2 exciting signings, but I'm sure that's going to come with a fairly big outlay. That would have been 60 million between those 2 players, I guess. I'm going to assume. Is that those 2 moves represent progress in terms of chasing down the top 3, and what would we have to do on top of that to really say we've had a great summer?
It's a good question. I think we need to beef up that midfield a little bit with a defensive midfielder, potentially an upgrade on Richarlison, but I don't think that's a necessity. But I think also we need a cover for left centre back and left back as well. We still haven't sorted out that issue.
So if Richarlison is not a necessity, are you okay with just Doué and then that's it?
In the front line?
In the front line, I mean.
Well, I was saying Doué and Neto.
Oh, and Neto. Okay. Yeah, we need another player.
If we were to sign Doué and Neto, I wouldn't hold it against the club for not upgrading in the 9 position. Mm-hmm. Are you agreeing?
Yeah, I agree. But I feel like if we don't get another winger, we probably need to get a striker.
If we sign Doué and Neto, that says to me Son's going to be our number 9 next season.
Yeah, and that's fine with me because I think all you need to do is give him chances and he'll score.
Yeah. Yeah, so that is the situation on Désiré Doué.